So now is the time that we begin talking about Amazon RDS. Now what is RDS? So it's a service which helps you store your data into the database. Okay, and RDS over here stands for Relational Database Service. So Relational Database Service. That is what it stands for over here. Okay, that is what RDS is, and what it provides is, so it provides SQL databases. Okay, and if you have like SQL databases, if you want to store your data in SQL databases like PostgreSQL, MySQL, Microsoft SQL Server, you can make use of Amazon RDS and host it in the cloud. Okay, now Amazon RDS is a managed relational database. Okay, what does managed mean over here? Okay, so I'll just explain managed. So it's a managed database service. Now what does it mean? So normally when you set up a database server, there are tons of things involved. Like for example, you will be installing the database software, you would be patching updates, you would be monitoring your server, you would be backing it up, right? You would be creating backups. You will scale up and scale down the storage depending on the need. So all of this you have to do in a server that you set up, right? But with managed database service, you don't have to do all of this. And with AWS, Amazon takes care of all of that. Okay, so installing database software, updates, everything. You just have to focus on your data and your application. Okay, so what this means is it's completely managed by AWS. And when you want to create or set up a database for your application, you just do few clicks on the AWS console, and then you have your database up and running in the cloud. Okay. And there are things like you can manage backups, you can like AWS automatically will back up your database. You don't have to do it yourself. Okay. But backups will be done. There will be high availability because you have a setting wherein you can enable multi availability deployment. Okay. And that will make sure like your database is highly available. You can scale your database anytime, you can secure it, and you can make use of multiple database engines like MySQL, PostgreSQL, Oracle, SQL Server. You can even make use of Aurora. Okay, so that is what Amazon RDS is. Now, what I will do is I'll come over here to our console, and here what we are going to do is we are going to create a simple instance of Amazon RDS, and let us explore this service as well. So you can search for RDS over here at the top. Okay, and you will see Aurora and RDS, and this is Managed Relational Database Service. Okay, so you will click on this, and the moment you click on this, you'll be taken to the console page wherein you are going to see like if you have any sort of DB instances running. Okay, so we don't have any sort of DB instances running. Now, if you scroll down a bit here, you're going to see Create a Database option. So just click on this. And the moment you click on this, you're going to see a form which will help you choose all the configurations that you need for the database. Okay. So of course, there are two ways in which you can create the database. One is standard create, wherein you will set all the configuration options, including the availability, security, backups, maintenance, everything. And easy create is to create the database with minimal configuration. Okay, so AWS itself will use recommended best practice configuration, and it will quickly get you up to speed. Okay, so you can choose standard create or easy create. I'll just keep standard create over here. We can see engine options over here. Engine options, there are different database engines that exist. Okay, so you have MySQL, Oracle, PostgreSQL. There are tons of options that are available over here. I won't say ton, okay, but there are a good number of options available. So I'll just scroll down and I'll show you all the other options as well. So you can see over here, show only versions that support multi-AZDB cluster. So you can basically enable that option. You can select the version of PostgreSQL. Okay, and you have different templates now over here. So what are you creating this database for? Are you creating it for production, development test environment, or you are making it a free tier? So if you select production, you will have this kind of a cluster deployment or instance deployment that will happen. So write, read, endpoint, there will be standby. So this kind of a structure will be deployed. If you select multi AZ database cluster, this is how it will be deployed, and there will be 3 instances that will be done over here. Okay, so depending on your choice, you can choose, and here you have different options as well. Again, you can select your database cluster identifier, your username that you wish to have, and you can have the password as well. So you can create your own password over here, or you can have password managed in AWS Secrets Manager, which is like highly secure. Okay, you have DB instance, you have like storage and everything, you have connectivity details over here. So a lot of configuration, okay, a lot of things. It's a huge form that you need to put in, and you can see the total cost over here. This is estimated monthly cost for me, okay. The reason is I've chosen production setup over here, okay. So here, if you scroll up, here I've chosen production. If I choose dev test, that is going to update, and if I choose free tier, it is going to be free over here. So you can see single instance with single one deployment, and over here, if you scroll down, it's going to be free for me. You can see there is no cost, okay. So what I will do is I'll instead of filling in this long form for demonstration, I'll select easy create option over here, okay, and I'll select MySQL over here, and MySQL is free, so I'll select free tier here. Database identifier, I'll enter, so database 1 is good, master username is admin, that's fine, and here I'll say self-managed, and you can get your password auto-generate, okay, and you can view your credentials after you create the database, okay. So these credentials, like the master username, whatever you're setting, and the password that gets auto-generated, these two things you will need along with the RDS instance URL, okay. So I can say create database, okay, I'll create the database. So it will take some time for the instance to be created. We'll wait for a while. Now you can see over here, my database is created and it is configuring. So you can see the status changed to configuring. It is configuring the database and all. And you can see over here, RDS has created the database and master password during database creation. And it will be displayed in the connection details. So I have to say view connection details. And the only way to view your master password is to choose view connection details during database creation. Okay, so later on you cannot. So basically what you do is you click on view connection details and copy the connection details and save it somewhere. Okay, I won't be disclosing my connection details because it's sensitive and you are not supposed to share this information with anyone. So basically get your connection details and store it somewhere safely. So if you click on view connection details, this is what you are going to see. Okay, and my password is hidden. So I'll just copy all of this and I'll store it somewhere. So I've saved all this information now and I'll just hit close over here. Okay. So here, if you see the status, there is still like modifying status. Okay. It's not available yet, but you can see all the database information over here, database related information, right? So yeah, this is how you can get the database setup. Now it will take some time for database to be available, but that's completely fine. We are done with the setup. So now you can see my database is also available, and what I would do is I would try connecting an application to my database. So I'll come over here to IntelliJ IDEA. So I'm clicking on create a new project, and you can see this is what I'm filling in. Okay, Java, and instead of Gradle, I'll make use of Maven. And yeah, rest all is looking good. I'll select latest version of Java over here, and I'll see next over here. And here, this is IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate. So if you don't have IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate, you can make use of Spring Initializer, which is start.spring.io, or you can even create a Python-based application. Okay, the goal is just to show you how an application can connect to RDS instance. Okay, the application frontend can be anything. Like it can be Node.js. You can make use of Springboard. You can make use of Python. It's totally your choice. I'll make use of web over here. I'll make use of GPA. And I'll make use of, since our database type is MySQL, I'll make use of MySQL driver over here. I'll say, I think this is it, and I'll say create over here. So it will create the entire process, set it up for me. All right, I'll come over here and it is loading everything. Okay, now what I will do is I'll come over here quickly, and here in the resources, we have application.properties. All right. And what I've done is here in form.xml file, I have added things like MySQL connector. Okay, I missed one dependency, which is GPA. Okay, I have added GPA. So GPA and MySQL is added. Okay, MySQL connector is added. So what I will do is I'll add quickly database related connection details. So I'll say Spring. I'll say Spring data source and URL over here. Okay, so this is going to define the URL. Now URL is going to be in this format. Okay, GDPC. Okay, GDPC because this is the protocol. I'm going to say MySQL over here. Okay, and then after saying MySQL, I'm going to have the host name added over here. hostname followed by the DB. So hostname is basically our RDS instance hostname. So come over here, I'll just collapse this, and you will have this endpoint over here, the database endpoint. So come over here and just get this over here, and you can basically have a demo DB over here, something like this. Okay, so this is done. Now here I'm going to add a username over here. Okay, so I need a data source username. So this is the property. I'm going to say admin because admin was the username. I'm going to say password over here. Now password is also data source dot password. Okay, so data source password, and this is going to be the password that you had copied. Okay, when you created the database, and I'm going to say driver name over here, or so driver name. I think that might not be needed. I'll just specify dialect over here. Okay, so dialect. So this is the property GDBC. Okay, GDBC dialect, but it will be GPA. Oops, so this is not the right property. 1 second, so I'll just get rid of this. It's string. I'll say GPA dot properties dot I'll say hibernate dot dialect. So this is the property. Okay, and I'll say org dot hibernate dot dialect dot MySQL dialect, something like this. Okay, so this is done, and I don't think anything else is needed. Username, password, and everything we have. So password I'll add. Okay, so I'll just add the password. So password is also added. Now let me run this application and let me see what is happening. Okay, are we able to make a connection? What happens? Let us see the output. Okay, there's literally nothing in the database. Okay, but ideally it should be able to make the connection. Let us see if it's not able to. So now when I run the application, I get this kind of an error. Okay, I get this kind of an error. So this is basically happening because RDS is blocking the connection. Okay, it's not allowing the connection. Why is it not allowing? Because our database is not publicly available. So this is something we missed. So when creating the database, there is an option to enable public accessibility for your database, which of course after creating the database also you can do. So you have to make sure the database is selected, click on modify, and you have to scroll down over here, and here just below connectivity there is additional configuration. So you have to make sure that this database is publicly accessible. Okay, and then what you do is you continue and you modify. So you apply immediately, not in next scheduled maintenance window. You will apply immediately and you will say modify the DB instance. So this is going to modify the database instance for you. Okay, and if you go to database, okay, you have this connection. Make sure this is added properly over here in application.properties. There's no issue as such. Okay, and let me restart the application. Okay, let me restart the application. So let us see if it connects now. Okay, so now if you see the logs, you will see that it allowed this time, but it's saying unknown database DemoDB. Of course, it is going to say that because we are trying to connect to DemoDB and DemoDB does not exist. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to get DemoDB created. Now, either you can make use of CLI to do this, or what you can do is you can basically connect using a graphical user interface. So I already have MySQL Workbench installed onto my system. So you can either install it or you can, make use of CLI. So I'll prefer this. So you can say create a new connection, and here you will say RDS demo, like so. You can mention the host name. So what is the host name? We'll just copy the host name from here. Okay, I've copied this, and host name is over here, 3306, and username is admin. Password. So I'll just say password over here. I'll just add the password here. So I added the password by clicking on store in vault, and I'll say test connection. Okay, let us see if the connection is successful. So you can see connection successfully made. Okay, I'll say okay. I'll say okay over here. So this is RDS demo. I'll just connect it to this instance. So now what is happening is via MySQL Workbench, I'm connecting to RDS instance. Okay. Now, if by chance you have not selected MySQL as the database engine, and if you have selected PostgreSQL, you have to make use of pgadmin. Okay, so there are different tools for different database vendors, okay, or different database engines. Now here you can see sys is there. Okay, sys is there. So what I will do is I need to create a schema because I need to create the database, right? So the database name is DemoDB. So I'll just take this and I'll add demo DB over here and I'll say apply. Okay, so this is applied. Finish. Oops, what happened? It's not allowing to create schema demo DB. Okay, operation failed. So this is currently busy. Is that so? But here at the bottom it says changes applied. So let me do a refresh over here and let me see if this is applied or not. Okay, it seems it's not applied. Okay, so I tried executing this after a while and it worked. Okay, but the problem is I did not add the underscore over here. I missed that. So, okay, so I'll add the underscore here, something like this. Okay, and I'll say apply here. I'll say apply. Okay, so maybe there was some connection issue and maybe it was busy or not accepting connection at that time. Okay, so you can see there are a couple of databases or schemas that have been created. I'll delete the one without underscore, drop schema, and I'll say drop now. So this is drop now. Okay, and I have this one now. So I'll just do a refresh. Okay, so this will take some time. Maybe it's connecting to the instance, and our instance is very basic. Okay, it's in the free tier. Okay, so yeah, limited capacity, but it's working fine. We are able to connect, and I tried deleting this, but it will take some time, and it's deleted now. You can see. Okay, now let us run the application. So we have the database now inside RDS instance. Now actually it should work absolutely fine. So we'll wait for a while, and you can see there are no issues as such. It is able to create the connections, no issues as such. You can see over here, right? You can see. And from here, what I can in fact do is I'll add Lombok over here. Let me add Lombok here. Okay, so I'll say Lombok. Okay, Lombok is added into my project. Okay, now I'll come over here and I'll create a new Java class. I'll call this as student. Okay, and since I have GPA and everything configured already, I'll mark this as an entity over here like so. And here I'll say private long ID over here. Oops. And I'll say private string name. Oops. So private string name. And okay, this is giving an error. So what is the error? Okay, it should have an ID attribute. It has ID attribute, but I'll mark this as ID and I'll say generation value. Generation value is strategy. So strategy should be identity. Okay, so this should be enough. And let me run this now. So we should have this student table being auto created now in our RDS instance, right? So let us see this. Okay, so you can see. Okay, so you can see no issues as such. If you come over here, let me do a refresh. I did a refresh and I don't see any sort of tables here yet. Okay, no sort of table yet. So let me also enable SQL. That will give some more clarity. Okay, so what I will do is I'll come over here. Okay, somewhere over here I'll say spring dot gpa dot show SQL true, like so, and let me run this. Okay, so this should ideally work. I'm not seeing the table yet, so it's because maybe I am not adding a property over here. So I'll add a Hibernate property which will ask the database to be updated whenever there is any change in the entities. Okay, so what I can do is DDL, it's called DDL auto. So Spring Hibernate DDL auto, and I'll just say update over here. Okay, so you could see different values there. Okay, you could see things like update the schema if necessary. So this is not present. So let me run it with update over here and let us see how it behaves. Okay, so ideally it should create this time. Let me see what happens. Okay, connection is created. You could see the connection was created. And here, okay, query I'm not seeing printed over here. Connection was created. JDBC URL is being created. Everything is being created. Okay, now you can see tables over here. Okay, so I'm not sure if it was created with this run or it was created in the previous run. Okay, maybe it was created in the previous run and it took a little bit time to reload this. Okay, but neither whether it was created or not, we anyways had to add this property, because if we do any future updates to the entity, it should be reflected in the database. And you can see over here the columns and everything being added. So this is clearly coming in from our application. Now we can develop this application, we can add controllers, service, and it is straight away talking to RDS. Okay, it's not a good practice to hard code the database connection URL this way, including the username, password. So password I have not hard coded, but username and everything, it's not a good idea. Like URL also should not be there in the properties file. But since this is a demo, I'm just demonstrating things. Okay, and yeah, this is working absolutely okay. Now you can create controllers and play around with this, and it's going to give you all the data from RDS instance. And you can of course take this front-end backend application. This is actually a backend application. You can take this and deploy this onto an Amazon EC2 instance as well. All right. So yeah, I hope this has been useful, and I hope you all have enjoyed this class. Now, if you're creating services on Amazon, it's also important that you delete everything that you're creating so that you don't get billed unnecessarily. Okay. So I'll select the database over here. You have an option to delete the database. You can see delete, stop temporarily. So I'll just stop it for now. Okay. So it's telling me I acknowledge that stopping the database only pauses the billing for instance hours, and DB restarts automatically on this date. So do you want to do this? Because you're stopping it temporarily and it will automatically start. Okay. So whether you acknowledge that or you don't acknowledge that, so you can basically, here you see it is stopping only for 7 days. So you can stop or you can delete it. So I would prefer deleting it right now. If I need another instance, I will create an instance later on. Okay, but I'll delete it right now so that I'm not billed unnecessarily. I don't want to, get billed unnecessarily. So I've deleted the database. What I can also do is I can go to S3, or I can go to EC2 over here, EC2 instance, and I do have EC2 instance also created over here. So I'm going to select the instance. Do we have instance running? No, we don't have anything over here. Do we have S3 bucket? So we have few S3 buckets, or one S3 bucket, I would say. I can delete that as well. Okay, so let me delete that. And you can delete the, okay, bucket must be empty before you delete it. So come over here, empty the bucket. Okay, so delete, loading the objects, and to confirm, I'll say delete. So you can see there are multiple steps if you're deleting something. Okay, there are multiple steps. And you come back over here, general purpose buckets. I'll select this, I'll say delete. Okay. And okay, bucket is not empty. How come it's not empty? It's empty, right? It's empty. So I don't know, or maybe it was not empty at that time, but now it should be deleted. Okay, empty bucket. So let me see what's the problem. Okay, permanently delete. So I'll type in permanently delete and I'll empty this. Okay, so yeah, this is how it should be. So if you come over here, okay, if you select this, delete, this is being deleted. So I'll say enter the bucket name and I'll say delete the bucket. So bucket is also being deleted now, and the bucket is deleted. You can see over here. Okay, so RDS instance, S3 bucket, whatever you have, you should delete it. That is really, really important. Otherwise, AWS charges pay per usage. Okay, so AWS will assume you're using the services and it will keep on billing you. That is something that we don't want to have, and we want to avoid that, right? So be careful about these things. Also, make sure you go and check different regions as well, where in whichever region you are working. Okay, make sure you don't have any services in that region. Okay.